Okay, in this video, part 2 of the simple house foundation drawing, this is where we're going to go ahead and add a pipe column underneath of our steel beam and on top of our concrete pier footer. So what we're going to do is go right into Revit, and we're going to take a look at where we left off here. We have our pier footer in our hidden line style. We have our steel beam running through the structure. If we go in to look at the detail section, you can see that this is our steel beam set in place here on the TO foundation level, and then we're going to go ahead and add in our steel column. Okay, so our steel column is going to get added. We'll go ahead and just put it on our BO foundation layer for now. We'll go here to the structural tab on the top of the ribbon bar, and then we're going to go and we're going to find column. And then from here, we're going to go over and we're going to probably have to load a steel column. So while we have vertical column selected, we'll hit load family, and then we're going to head in here to our structural, go into US Imperial, we'll come back out, and we're looking for structural columns. So we find our structural columns, steel, and then we need to find our pipe column. So here's our pipe column. Go ahead and select that. From here, we're looking at our chart. As we come down through here, this is 1, 2, here's 2.5, there's 3, here's 3.5. So we're looking for a 3.5 inch steel column. We'll go ahead and hit OK. And then our column should come up over here in our properties. And we have our pipe column, 1 or 3.5 inches here. And now we're going ahead to add that. So I'm just going to go ahead and find center of beam, directly center of these double lines here on the beam on that midpoint. We'll go ahead and click and drop that column in place. Now, column's not going to be visible for a few reasons. We'll go ahead and hit escape twice to finish the command, and then we're going to go to the detail view. Now, what we're looking for is where did that column end up? So to do this, we need to actually then go ahead and find where things actually laid out with this column. So to find that column, we need to find where it actually ended up. Well, we placed it, and we know it's BO foundation. So I'm going to start looking around inside here and see if it ended up down inside. Oh, there it is. So you can see that there is a column that was in the BO foundation layer. So with that being set up, we need to be able to grab that column. I'm going to go ahead and do a few things. First, we're going to take our attention here to this footer. This footer really needs to get joined into this slab properly. So we'll deal with that in a second. But I'm going to take and just pull my footer down. That way I can find this column. Then when I actually have a hold of this column, I can go ahead and change some of these levels up. So the column can actually sit either on the TO foundation, or it can sit above the foundation on that concrete slab, depending upon if your concrete crew is going to pour around the slab or around the column, or you're going to end up just bolting it to the concrete. So we're going to go ahead and take this thing to make our base level the BO foundation. Then we're going to go ahead and run our top level up to the TO foundation. That at least gets it closer to position of where we need it to be. So now this is set up so it's going to run down and actually sit on the BO foundation. Well, I can go ahead and do a little base offset. We'll make this easier for concrete to pour, and it'll sit on top of the concrete slab and get bolted down. Now let's go back and turn our attention to this concrete footer. The concrete footer needs to run up to underneath of this concrete slab. And you can see the relationship between the stones underneath of the slab and this pier footer need to be adjusted. So with this highlighted, I'll go up here to the join tool, and I'm going to grab the floor system, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the footer. And then what just happened is it actually joined, but it joined in a relationship that I wasn't happy with. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this order so it changes things up here. All right, now the joint is taken care of. You can see how that footer is running up underneath of that concrete slab, and the stone comes down around that pier footer. The post is sitting on top of the concrete slab, and now we'll run up here, and we need to just adjust the height down for the post. And I'm just going to quickly just take a measurement. We're going to then drop this down 1 foot and 7/32 of an inch, and we'll just do a top offset. And I'll type in 1 foot and 7/32 of an inch. Whoops, doesn't like that. 0. wrong direction, negative. There we go. So negative 1 foot and 7/32 of an inch. So that drops down underneath of the beam. Now we're ready to go ahead and set the sill plate. We have a sill plate right here. It's going to sit right on top of our beam, and then we should be finished up here. Okay, so probably the simplest way to add the element above the steel beam that's going to be a sill plate is going to utilize the same type of sill plate wall that we utilized over here. Now, instead of this being pressure treated, this is just going to be standard spruce pine fir SPF. So we'll go ahead and grab our wall tool, but actually before we do that, we're going to go to the BO foundation. Then we're going to grab our wall tool, and now we're going to start thinking about building this wall here, but we'll use a 2x6 as our wall. So here it says 2x6 bottom plate is one of these walls we have. We also have a sill plate in here. So if I start with this 2x6 sill plate, this would be fine. I'm going to edit the type, duplicate, and I'm just going to pull this back and rename this sill plate, and then this is going to be SPF, because this is just going to be a standard SPF. Now, sitting on top of this is probably not going to be a 2x6, it's probably going to be a 2x8, so it has a little bit more bearing and space for bolts to go through the beam. So then we'll go ahead and just set up this in our materials. Go ahead and duplicate that selected material, and I copied the name that I typed in for the wall, and we'll copy it in here. So this is a 2x8 sill plate SPF. So we're all set here. I'm going to go ahead and change this up. So make this 2x8 is going to be 7.5 inches, and then we'll hit OK. Hit OK. Now we're ready to set up the base constraints. Well, the base constraint is not going to be BO foundation. The base constraint for this element is going to be TO foundation. And the top constraint, we can go ahead and keep unconnected here, or if it isn't, make it unconnected, and then make it 1.5 inches tall, because that's how large a 2x material is. So with that set up, we'll go zooming in nice and close here, make sure it says wall center line in our wall location, and then we'll come down and find the center of the beam. Now we'll zoom out and then zoom into the top while we're drawing the beam, and then drop the element. Now, it says here none of those elements were created. That's all fine and good, because we generally don't show the sill plates in our foundation drawings or the foundation view, but we do want to see that sill plate in the section view. So there's our sill plate. This is our beam, steel column. And now we should be able to pretty easily start looking at adding material notes to this. That's our floor system. Here, if I mouse over this, there's our 2x8 sill plate, which is spruce pine fir. That's the SPF. And I might as well pull this up and over here, keep this nice and clean. Then we should be able to then start tagging out our beam, our column. Well, looks like we got to add some notation for our beam and then our column as well. But our pier footer looks like that notation is going to stick, and we can go ahead and add that right now. So we can go in and back to the assignment here and take a look to see, well, what is the notation here? This is actually an 831 flange beam. We can look at the, see what's the best place to look at this. Yeah, probably right there. This is the 831 flange beam, and this is a 3.5 inch steel pipe column. We'll have to add those materials to those specific items, and then we should be able to call them out. So fairly simply, we can go ahead and do that. All right, so to go ahead and do this, we're going to go ahead and select our beam. And then once we have our beam selected, we don't have to go into edit type. This actually has materials and finishes directly underneath of the properties on the front. And it says metal, steel, ASTM. We're just going to go jump into here and change this up. We can then go right ahead and duplicate this material. And instead of pulling this material from here, we'll go ahead and call this a 1231 steel beam. And I think this is a W flange. So we'll just call it steel W 831 steel flange. All right. And then we'll highlight this and we'll paste it up here. Hit apply, hit OK. Now we wanted to go in and tag that. You can see that that tag should, well, we don't have to save that right now. That tag should be able to pull from here, and I can see that's a 1231 steel W flange. So that note will work. You can go ahead and do the same thing for the pipe column. Again, go ahead and there's your structural material. You can go back to the assignment, take a look, and then be able to put in a 3.5-inch steel pipe column, and then you can tag out that material. In the end, what you want to do is set up the rest of this drawing so that you have all of your materials noted. Make sure you have an elevation or a dimension for elevation here, and then make sure this is set up at 1/2 inch equals a foot. You will then submit these two drawings. This is going to be your quick foundation for your simple house with a steel beam. Make sure all of the information is noted, including the beam pockets. It's important to note the beam pockets and your detailed section view. So hopefully this helps get this assignment completed.